Oh my God, Joe Douglas is here. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. All hail, Joe. All hail, praise Joe. Oh my God. I sent out like millions and millions of hail Joe tweets or hail Joe texts this past weekend. Dude, I hope he stays in Philadelphia as long as possible. I don't care what it takes. I've got magical fingers. I will rub your head as you watch tape. I don't care. As long as you stay in Philadelphia forever. Mike Skolsky, Jeremy Burton are both here. Eagles killed this freaking draft. Let's talk about it.
Oh, we were down there for round one. It was such a good experience. It was a crazy start to the draft. There's 8 offensive players taken in the first 12 picks. I mean, it's insane. So the Eagles sat there 14, and I think went with their guy that was going to be their guy the whole time, unless Lattimore happened to fall to him, and they picked Derek Barnett. He's got a high motor, great first step. He's got a ton of sacks in Tennessee against really great competition in the SEC. Played against the likes of great tackles like Cam Robinson. So I can't hate that pick. It's a safe pick. He'll come in and make an impact right away and be in that rotation opposite Brandon Graham. Filled some holes on corner, obviously. We'll get into all this, and a couple of receivers, linebacker, D tackle, and obviously the little guy from San Diego State, Pumphrey, the running back. So we'll get into it. Joe Douglas, yes, he had a great first draft with the Birds.
Definitely a great draft. I mean, on paper, if I'm going to try to find anything wrong with it, I feel like I'm nitpicking because I think they knocked it out of the park. We didn't address everything. We still have a couple holes, but we're not going to fix all of our holes in one draft. They did what they were supposed to do. They stuck to their board, and I think they got one of the best players available almost in all of their picks. So I think Howie and Joe Douglas knocked it out of the park. So once we break down the picks, I'll go into more detail about each prospect. But I mean, we are a much better football team than we were last week.
Oh yeah. They attacked, their needs. It was a great cornerback class. You got 2 of them in the second and third round. They did exactly what I wanted them to do. There. So all right, let's just go quickly around. Let's grade it. How good was the draft? Give it a letter grade. Even though I hate grading drafts, but we'll do it. Whatever.
I'll give it a solid B+. A-, right in around there, an 89 or 91, if I had to put a number to it. We addressed so many holes. It's a kind of a breath of fresh air having to work out this way with Joe at the helm. Like Skolsky said, we really took the best player available at each and on our board. We stuck to our board. I didn't think we planned on getting back-to-back wide receivers in the in the 4th and 5th round like that. But Gibson from West Virginia was just they said the best guy on their board. We got a burner. So some late round prospects. I think all around. I mean, you can't give it a bad grade like Skolsky said. You'd be nitpicking.
Yeah, I agree probably with A-. And then if, Sidney Jones does get back to 100%, I think on paper at least you're looking closer to an A+, just because, like you said, we stuck to the board, which is big. We didn't reach on positional needs. We didn't end up with a Danny Watkins, Jaquan Jarrett, or anyone like that. Even if we already drafted that position, we got it. So we just have a lot of good players, and the more you stick to your board, the better chance you have prospects working out. I think we're in a good position.
Yeah, they didn't reach for anybody. They didn't reach for a Marcus Smith. They didn't reach for any firemen. They didn't do any of that this year. They stuck to their board. They took their best player available, whatever it was. Now, I don't think they took the best player available every round. Like Brian Billick said, it is a little bit of a con because their best player available in the second and third round were cornerbacks. That wasn't a coincidence. But yeah, I'm giving it an A, man. I thought out of the needs that they had on their roster, I thought they filled them exceptionally well. It is going to take more than one draft to fill all the holes. We're going to get into that. I don't know. Got a couple more topics before we get to it, but Joe Mixon, Dalvin Cook, we'll get into why it wasn't, in our opinion, why it might not have been a big deal to not get them right away. I didn't really say that right, but yeah, I think you know where I'm going. So they killed it. They killed the draft. I give him an A. Now the question here is, all right, now the next question is, they've been so terrible for the past decade, past 15 years drafting. Howie Roseman's left this stench here in Philly in terms of the draft. We haven't drafted well since maybe 2012, and even that draft doesn't even look great anymore on paper. So do you think we are possibly overrating this draft because we've had so many shitty drafts that this one actually looks better than it actually is? Or do you think it actually was a really good draft?
I don't think it's necessarily overrated for that reason. After so many bad years, I mean, it's just I think we did what we were supposed to do. I think it's rated. It
was a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, I mentioned that before. I think it's rated right. I don't think it's underrated, overrated. I think it's right on par. We did what was best for the team, as any GM always says. And the whole controversy around the Sidney Jones pick, and some people didn't agree with it. The upside is huge. He's a young kid. He'll have time to heal. You see guys like Jason Peters came back from an Achilles, and he's a massive, massive man. Sidney Jones, he was a top 15 player in this draft, arguably a top corner before he tore his tendon there. And from what I heard, was a minimally invasive procedure. It's on the upper end of the Achilles. So people are overrating it because of the whole Sidney Jones thing. I think we're right on par. I think it was the right pick to do.
I agree with him. I don't think when I came up with that grade, I was just referring to this class. I didn't factor in my opinions in the last draft. Now, am I a little bit more excited and do I feel a lot better? Yes, a lot better compared to some of the previous Howie drafts and a couple of his chip drafts. But overall, those past failures didn't factor into my grade for this draft. I just think they knocked it out of the park. He looked at the past couple videos that I was in. They got a couple of the prospects we were talking about. So, I mean, that goes back to even before the draft. We were excited about the possibility about getting some of those players, and then we came out with multiple. So I thought it was great.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. It may be just a little overrated just because of all the bullshit, but I do think they knocked it out of the park. I mean, I'm normally complaining after every draft, and I have no complaints. The fact that, it's the Bitter Birds and we have no complaints, they pretty much killed it.
That's what scares me.
I have some nitpicks. I wouldn't have drafted Matt Collins. I would have gone cornerback with Desmond King, DeMonte Casey on the board. You can nitpick about Sidney Jones. Well, maybe you wanted, running back. Maybe you wanted Joe Mixon. But I'm not going to complain. I'm just not going to complain. We'll get to that topic right now, actually. Joe Mixon was on the board in the second round. Could have traded up for Dalvin Cook. Could have went and got your running back. What did you guys think? Should they have gone running back? Or are you okay with the Sidney Jones pick?
We discussed this a little pre-show, and it's a really good point Skolsky made. But yeah, it's harder to find a true shutdown corner than a running back. You see all these running backs come out in the later rounds, and there's always the way Doug has run what they did in Kansas City. They always kind of had. They mixed in three guys. They like to mix in. They like their rotations. They're running back by committee, the dreaded fantasy RBBC. So at least for this year, we're going to have a rotation of guys there. So I guess we could have. I mean, it would have been great, but to get Mixon there. But I guess they didn't see that risk reward being better than the risk reward for Sidney Jones, with the whole off the field issues and what you're bringing to the table with Mixon and all the PR and all that. So I'm fine with it. I just hope that Sidney Jones obviously recovers 100% and he can be what we all know he can be.
As you said, we talked about this a little bit before the show. I mean, Sidney Jones has shutdown corner potential, and there's maybe 5 shutdown corners in all of the NFL. While Dalvin Cook's great with his shoulder injuries, fumbling issues, some off the field issues, he's far from the perfect prospect, and the shelf life of running backs is already pretty low right now. You're looking at like 6 or 7 years max before you start seeing a steep decline. So where you have a shutdown corner, I mean, Sidney Jones is only 20 years old. So I mean, he could be on our team for like over a decade. He could be a cornerstone piece in our new defense. There's a lot of things to be excited about for Sidney Jones. He was someone I talked about in our previous videos of someone I wanted in the second round. We talked about this a little earlier in the video. We didn't address all of our needs in the draft. We weren't going to. We're not 1 or 2 pieces away from the Super Bowl. So next year's running back class is also stacked, which makes me feel better as well. So while we might be doing the running back by committee approach this year, I think they definitely made the right decision going with Sidney Jones, despite Dalvin Cook would give us the more excitement right away. I think long term it's going to pay off having a potential shutdown corner for a decade plus.
Yeah, Skolsky just nailed it on the head. To sum it up in 10 seconds, next year's draft is where you tack running back. Whether it's Saquon Barkley, whoever you want to go after. There's going to be a lot of great running backs next year. So attack it then. Go get your corners this year. It was a great cornerback class. You got Sidney Jones. You got arguably the second best corner in the draft, depending on what you feel about after the Achilles injury. I still had him high on my list. He's up there. He's top 15 on their board. So you go and take him. Go and take him next year. You go get your running back. Simple as that. And Jeremy, you used an accidental pun. Because mixing in the running backs. Well, if you would have drafted Joe Mixon, there would have been no mixing in at all. He would have been the guy. He would have been your 3-down back. Yeah. So look at that. We got puns. We don't even know it.
It's also important that the team does their due diligence. I mean, we know a little bit about his Achilles injury, but the amount of research they do, and especially like the day 1, day 2 picks. I mean, they said themselves they looked at almost every case of Achilles injuries, what positions they played, what they came back at. He said he even looked at NBA players, high twitch athletes. They consulted with doctors. So they did all of that, and they were still comfortable taking him in the second round. And that should show you how optimistic they are about him getting to 100%.
Unlike the Sixers, the Eagles training staff is exceptional. Sports science, bitches. And if you look at the statistics, the last 4 years, there's no healthier team in the NFL than the Philadelphia Eagles. So the people that were out there there were some people that didn't like the Sidney Jones pick because he's injury prone. Sorry, I mean, one Achilles tear doesn't make you injury prone. Joe Mixon had some injuries. Dalvin Cook had some injuries. Reuben Foster's got the shoulder thing. Everyone goes through their injuries. It just happens. One of those things you just got to deal with. And they did their due diligence. I trust them. Hey, they're the healthiest team in the last 4 years. I trust them. So they got it right here. All right, I want to go back to the first round. Derek Barnett. This pick was met with mixed reviews. It was the safe pick. It wasn't the sexy pick. Looking back at it now, do you guys like the pick?
I was back and forth with this because I'm standing there right in front of the art museum watching this go down. And it was funny, the cheer of the crowd, it was just kind of like, yeah. Like, I mean, with 8 offensive players being taken in the top 12, I mean, there was Jonathan Allen, Reuben Foster, Malik Hooker even dropped that far. But I mean, like I said, Derek Barnett was on the top of their board past Marshall Lattimore, I think, at that spot. No matter what. I mean, he's a guy, he played over 80% of the snaps with Tennessee against great talent in the toughest conference in college football. They love his motor. They love his first step, setting that edge, getting the jump on the ball. Perfect scheme fit for Jim Schwartz in the wide 9. I mean, I think he's going to come in right away and be a contributor. I'm not going to say he's going to get 10 sacks this year. I mean, there's a rotation that's still going to happen. He's not what we're paying Vinny Curry, I mean, either Vinny Curry's getting starter money. Is he technically going to be called the starter? Probably. Will Derek Barnett play more snaps by the end of the year than Vinny Curry? Possibly. This pick is really it just says how bad of a contract we gave Vinny Curry. I mean, this is a wake up call to Vinny. So, this kid can and probably will take his job. And then you got Chris Long in the mix there. We knew what he was going to be. That veteran rotational player. But I mean, our D line is stacked right now. You got to account for Timmy Jernigan as part of this draft too. We dropped back 25 picks in the third round and we got him. So, it takes pressure off the corners. So yeah, I mean, our corners aren't that experienced right now. We got a couple of kids and Jalen Mills and Patrick Robinson's the most, season one if you don't count Ron Brooks. So it takes the pressure off the corners. We needed a pass rusher. As much as Reuben Foster would have been great to have, that would have been my guy. They got the edge rusher, and thinking about it more, I'm fine with it.
At the time, I agree. I was kind of expecting Reuben Foster, and I was a little surprised when they didn't go that. But then you saw Reuben Foster, fall and continue to fall. I was like, oh, here the Giants are going to get him, and they didn't. They passed on him. Oh, the Cowboys are going to get him. They passed on him. And then finally, the Niners traded back. But not too long after the first round, the news came out that teams aren't comfortable with how his first shoulder surgery went. So they're thinking that he already needs a second shoulder surgery, and that there was concerns that he needed his hand held through everything in Alabama, and that he might not succeed without that handheld support that he had in Bama. So,
AKA he's dumb as shit.
Well, I won't comment on that, but that's just what the reports came out. So that made me understand. Once I saw how many teams are passing on him, I was like, all right, it's his shoulder's something to worry about, and the off the field concerns are real. So then I kind of understood, but. Going to Barnett, like you said, he's a perfect fit for the defense. I mean, Jim Schwartz doesn't blitz. He doesn't blitz that many linebackers. He doesn't blitz anyone really. It's all about defensive line pressure. So that's why it's important we have depth at that position. Invest in that position long term. And as you said, he's great in the wide nine scheme. He's someone that's got 10 plus sacks for 3 straight years in the SEC against some of the best offensive tackles in college football, many of which are in the NFL or just got drafted this past weekend. So, I mean, he succeeded. He succeeded in one of the best conferences in college football. He broke, as we all know, we've heard a million times, he broke Reggie White's sack record at Tennessee. He was Pro Football Focus's top-ranked pass rusher. I mean, all he does, he just gets to the quarterback. He's a film nut. He's a good kid. He's 20 years old, so to put that in perspective, he'll be 24, 25 when his rookie contract's up, as opposed to where Danny Watkins was 27 years old when we drafted him. So he's another guy who's going to be on our team, hopefully for years to come. He reminds me kind of like his ceiling, that is probably be like a Terrell Suggs, maybe Tom Bahali type guy, high effort. Get a high effort pass rusher, might not be the most athletic guy, but just has an arsenal of moves to get to the quarterback. So he's a great fit, and he was a great pick.
All right, you guys talked about Barnett. I've talked about Barnett extensively, so I'll focus on Foster a little bit. It's interesting, the shoulder surgery stuff, and obviously as a linebacker, you need your shoulders to tackle. The hold of your hand thing is interesting. They had to hold his hand there. Like Hootie and the Blowfish there at Alabama. So, yeah, he's dumb as shit. I wonder what he got on his Wonderlic test. I'll have to look that up. Probably didn't do too well, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, Reuben Foster, I mean, you watch the tape, though, the dude's everywhere. It reminds you again of the Miles Jack situation from last year. And, we'll see what type of impact Foster makes. But the fact that John Lynch took him and John Lynch killed the draft, that tells me something, too. So, I think Foster's going to be really good. We'll see. But Barnett's the safe thing. He's the sure thing. You're going to get 8 to 10 sacks from a year. He's going to pressure the quarterback. So there's that. All right, moving on. Cornerbacks. We drafted a pair of them. Got Sidney Jones. We got Rasul Douglas. Could these be your starting corners for the next 5 to 10 years? What do you guys think?
Well, I just found out that Reuben Foster scored a 9 on the Wonderlic test, so it's pretty putrid.
What did Vince Young get? Vince Young, hold on. You go and I'll look
Not
up.
as bad as Mo Claiborne, that's for sure.
So yeah, Reuben Foster, Adrian, you're correct. He is not smart. But corners. Yes, I mean I can absolutely see. Hopefully by next year, I think they're going to take the safe route, and especially financially, I think it makes sense with Sidney Jones to just completely redshirt him. They're saying he might be ready in November to get a few games in, but we'll see about that. Corner is hard position to translate from college to the NFL, but it's going to take time to get to know the ins and outs of the defense, but I like Douglas for that at the 99th pick because people had him rated as a second round value, and he's really long, he's tall, he's physical. The way he is, this kid was living on he was poor, living on scraps in junior college, and made his way to now getting drafted in the NFL. I mean, he's just a humble guy who, and a lot of the picks that we brought in, they're the right fit for Philadelphia character-wise, and the way they're just football players, emotion, passionate. I definitely see them adjusting well to being in Philly, our defense, and as long as Sidney Jones gets healthy, and Douglas is going to get every opportunity this year to compete for playing time, and I think he's going to get a lot of it. You saw what Jalen Mills' playing time was pretty significant last year as a rookie. I definitely see him as Douglas as a big contributor this year and moving on to a starter in 2018. And then Sidney Jones, so we'll follow him up as well.
I just want to add one more thing about Reuben Foster for how he was all over the field, how he laid the lumber, how he gets all the accolades for coverage. 0 forced fumbles in college, 0 interceptions, created 0 turnovers.
Wow.
Just a fun fact. But going back to the corner situation, I mean, I don't know how much they'll contribute this year. I mean, we'll see if Sidney Jones even suits up. As you said, there's an argument just to sit him for the season, not just for health reasons, but Jimmy Kempski also had an article how if he sits this season, he'll be a restricted free agent at the end of his rookie contract as opposed to unrestricted free agent. So that might help out, but we'll see on that. We'll take that a day at a time. But Russell Douglas is very talented. He was an interception machine, 8 interceptions last year. He has the size. He has the speed to stick with the outside receivers. He has some technique issues, but I mean, when you get him where you got him, you're not going to get the perfect corner. And we have a great cornerbacks coach in Corey Underlin, who hopefully can get a lot of those corrected. And this kind of goes back to what we were talking about with the Derek Barnett pick, that when you can generate pressure and you have a great defensive line, it's going to make the cornerback's job significantly easier. So we have a great defensive line. Our 2 starting safeties are very good. And obviously Hicks is very good, and Bradham played well. So we'll probably get to see him, and hopefully if our line plays like they should, as well as they look on paper, he'll be in a position where he can make some plays and generate some turnovers like we saw in West Virginia. And then obviously we talked about Sidney Jones earlier. I mean, the guy can literally do it all. He can play zone, he can play man, he's fast enough to stick with some of the speedsters in the NFL. What do you run, like a 4.3 something? But he's physical enough to play against the big wide receivers. He's someone that you're looking at to be a true number 1 and potential shutdown corner. So I definitely see Jones as their long-term. Russell Douglas is a project, but I think he has a chance to be the number 2 guy as well. So we'll see if Jalen Mills takes that step. But regardless, our defensive line should help out our secondary tremendously this year.
All right, going back to Reuben Foster, Wonderlic scores. So the average score is about a 24. Vince Young scored a 16. That's considered bad. So Reuben Foster got a 9. And Mo Claiborne scored a 4.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say.
He scored a 4. That's probably just from spelling out your name right. Maybe he got his name wrong. I don't know.
He has a learning disability or something, though, so
Yeah, this seems
I
like
don't
a
want
lot
to
of
trash him.
a lot of those
That's what,
a lot of those dudes in Dallas have learning disabilities. That's for sure. Okay. All right. So corners. Let's talk about it. So, here's the thing about all this. I'm glad, after it played itself out, I'm glad they went cornerback in the second and third round, because if Douglas would have been your kind of number one cornerback, and this is something that Skolsky even said before the show, we should start just filming right when we come on instead of having a pre-show, because like some of the stuff we say is actually extraordinary, and we're not even recording. But yeah, the point you make, I mean, are you really going to feel comfortable with Rasul Douglas coming out to be your number one cornerback in this draft? Not really. Are you? He's more of like going to be potentially the number 2 guy, opposite of Sidney Jones. Sidney Jones is going to be your lockdown guy. Hopefully, we'll see how he pans out. And on the other side, you got Rasul Douglas, and both of these guys are, they're long, and they're going to press you. They're going to be physical with you, and the point, going back to the Barnett thing about pressuring the cornerback, they helped out the secondary too with their first round pick. They helped out that need too. Like when the Eagles started getting beat, I've made this point like hundreds of times, but when the Eagles started getting beat this season, it was when teams were getting the ball out less than 3 seconds to negate the pass rush, and they were just feasting on Leotis McKelvin and Nolan Carroll. They were feasting on them with the quick slants, quick hitches, stop routes, stuff like that, and they couldn't tackle, and they just kept moving the chains against us, slow plotting drives, and we would just get dominated. We started 3-0. Teams adjusted. We had no answer. We had no talent in the secondary to answer. But now, hopefully, you got some building blocks, the next couple years. And I'm with the Sidney Jones should pretty much just sit this season. I mean, maybe you play him a little bit. I'm giving Rasul Douglas as many snaps as possible, and I'm sitting Sidney Jones. And your future at cornerback, it's looking like Douglas and Jones are your outside corners, and we got a slot corner in Jalen Mills. So, all right, I guess, Skolsky, what did you do? Did you just, log out, come back in?
I don't know, man. I just got kicked out, but
Oh, we got 2 Skolskys on the screen. One of them's frozen. The other one's not. All right, anyway, I made my point on the cornerback. So let's talk the 2 wideouts real quick, and then we'll kind of talk Corey Clement, and then we'll get out. So 2 wideouts. Matt Collins. You got Gibson, the kid from West Virginia, who vertical threats. So, we got to talk Pumphrey too, I guess. Oh yeah, we'll talk wideout. What'd you think of the wideouts, Jay?
With Holland.
Oh. All right, maybe this is acting up, because now it looks like Jeremy got frozen. Skolsky, you're there though.
all right. I guess I'll jump ahead while he figures that out.
I'll reinvent Jeremy.
I mean, you saw last year we had 0 receivers who could take the top off the defense, and now we have Torrey Smith, we have Sheldon Gibson, Matt Collins. I mean, we have multiple vertical threats. So the issue was last year, as all of our weapons were middle of the field guys, with like Zach Ertz, Trey Burton, Jordan Matthews. They're all guys who are attacking the middle of the field. Once defenses figured out they could just put our outside quarters on an island and just focus on taking away the middle of the field, I mean, Carson Wentz just had nowhere to go. So now we have guys where you at least have to respect them going deep. They can't just leave the safety in the box. They have to, play deep. They have to play cover 2. They have to play deep. So Sheldon Gibson, I think both of them actually averaged over 20 yards of reception.
Mm.
So they're both guys who can blow the top off of defense. If you look at, I think someone posted on Reddit today, if you look at Matt Collins' spider chart, they show the comparables, 99% similar to Josh Gordon. So, I mean,
Well, I guess the 1%.
Hopefully the 1%.
Because he doesn't smoke weed and
That's what I'm hoping. Yeah. So I think at minimum, I think you're with Mac Hollins. You're getting a special team guy. That's at the very minimum. But they're talking about him potentially being as high as a second or third round pick if he didn't break his collarbone. Both of these guys are guys who worked out with Carson Wentz in the off season.
Mm-hmm.
So while he didn't really say anything when they asked him about it, I would be shocked if he didn't give some feedback on those guys. Mac Hollins is someone that can also be a red zone threat with his size. We went from having Greg Lewis as our wide receivers coach, and now we got I'm drawing a blank on his name from Chicago.
Rowe, right?
Oh yeah, the one who worked. Yeah, and he's done a great job. He developed some great wide receivers. So probably next year you'll probably see them mostly as special teams guys. Maybe factor them in a new wrinkle every once in a while. They're probably not going to make a huge impact this year in the receiving core, but down the road, especially with like Torrey Smith being on multiple one-year deals, and who knows what's going on Jordan Matthews, I think we'll slowly start introducing them, and then I think they'll be able to contribute down the road.
All right, Jeremy's back. So
that was weird. I could still hear you guys, but it was a black screen.
Huh? That happened to Skolsky too. Like you guys, it happened like within a minute of each other.
Huh.
So, anyway, you can give your thoughts on the wideouts.
Well, with Mac, not only I know this wasn't the only reason for him. I don't know if you guys said this, but he is a special teams gunner as well. So he's gonna make the team. He's gonna be an immediate impact on special teams, and he's a big physical guy, and it gives I think he's like 6'4", 221, and then you got Gibson who can really take the top off the defense. So these are just things that we didn't really threats that we didn't really have last year, and now pair it with Alshon and Torrey Smith, and we just have so much more depth in that position now, and that's huge. And we can finally say goodbye to DGB.
Bye.
Bye.
See ya. Oh, it was nice knowing you. Not. All right. I'll make this real quick. I mean, again, I've said this plenty of times already if you've been watching my stuff, but you got two vertical threats. The hope is that one of them pans out in a couple years, and he becomes the guy that Josh Huff was supposed to be. So that's really what it is here with the wideouts. Moving on, Darren Sproles' replacement, Donnell Pumphrey. Did you guys like this pick?
Yeah, I mean, we weren't going to get a 3-down back, so we got a role player who will, he can make plays. He rushed for more yards than anybody in Division 1A history. In San Diego State. So he's 5'8", 175, but he's going to learn from the best. He'll take I'm sure Darren Sproles will take him under his wing. Darren Sproles said this would be his last year. So Pumphrey's a guy that can just fill a role and be that maybe a third down back or a little secret weapon. Once Sproles leaves, but as far as a rookie impact, I don't really. He'll be in the rotation, or if there's an injury, but it's kind of a crowded backfield. It's going to be interesting to see who all. Well, I'm assuming Ryan Matthews will save that money once he gets healthy, and he'll get cut. And then it's basically just a bunch of guys. You got Smallwood, Marshall, Sproles, and Pumphrey. I mean, there's no true 3-down back. It's just going to be a rotation, pure and simple, and we'll use him, and he'll fill a role, get him as much opportunities as he can to learn from Sproles and see how it works out.
We'll mix everybody in because they didn't get Joe Mixon.
Oh, like we said, we weren't going to address every need in this draft, and while we still do need that 3-down back, they're thinking long term. They're thinking, Darren Sproles isn't here next year, and he's such an integral part of our offense that we need that dynamic player once he's gone. We want to still have that dual threat, change of pace guy, and Pumphrey has all that potential. Just to step into Darren Sproles' shoes. I mean, can you think of a better mentor for Pumphrey? Because I mean, even before the draft, people were comparing him to Darren Sproles, and here he gets to Darren Sproles is known for his work ethic. You gets to train with him every day, see how he goes about film and all of that. How to become that type of guy. The only thing that kind of surprised me was, for all the comparisons to Darren Sproles, is he had 0 punt returns attempts, and they didn't use him as a punt returner. I guess maybe because his volume was so high, the rest. But I thought maybe that would be somewhere where he can contribute. So I guess we'll have to see how that happens in training camp. Sproles needs a break. But I mean, Sproles is getting up there in age, so I think the only way we're really going to see him this year is, Sproles gets hurt, or I hope it isn't the case, but we see that he's losing a step. Maybe you can start you start the transition a little early, but this is more of a down the road type pick.
Yeah, absolutely.
As Jeremy brought up, Ryan Matthews' days are probably numbered. I mean, he's making $4 million this year. I mean, that's more than I think Adrian Peterson's slated to make this season. So I think we'll probably ride out this group. See how it goes in training camp preseason. And then, once, teams start making those final cuts and you start seeing those, backups start being cut for cap space, and, you start seeing some veterans hit the free agent market, maybe we're not comfortable with get one of those guys, a 1-year deal just to hold us over to the draft. But it's most likely going to be running back by committee. And that's why we spend so much resources on the interior offensive line and free agency, bringing back Wisniewski, signing Chance Warmack, who I like. I like his potential. So that should help the running game, I think, more than anyone we'd really drafted for this season.
Yeah. Donnell Humphrey, the thing that I hope Darren really takes him under his wing, get him in the fucking weight room. Get him in there, because Sproles is a bowling ball. He's built like an Amazon in the lower half of his body. It's unbelievable how many tackles he can break. Like you try to wrap him up around the waist, he's going right through you like butter. It's not like that with Pumphrey. You got a hand on him, he's going down. So, but Pumphrey's got the speed to turn the corner, and that's where he's going to be key. Bouncing runs to the outside, using him on the jet sweeps, getting him on the edge, getting him on the boundary. That's what you want to do with Donnell Pumphrey. Get him in space. Now, just to nitpick, I would have preferred Marlon Mack in this third down role. I think what Marlon Mack can do, he's got some more wiggle to him. Pumphrey's more speed. Mack's got some more jump cutting ability. So, yeah, we'll see how they mix everybody in this upcoming season. Obviously, the name to watch out for as well is Jamal Charles. Potentially, he might sign with the Eagles. Who knows? I mean,
apparently he's visiting Denver today.
Yeah, I heard that too. So, I mean, I like Jamal Charles at this point is like whatever. There's a reason why nobody has signed him yet. So, his medical may not be looking too good. We'll see though. All right, I guess we'll kind of wrap it up here. You guys, anything else you guys want to say about this draft?
No, I was just happy to be a part of it. At least the first round, we were down there. That was so much fun. The draft, I mean, we represented Philadelphia so well on a national level. Everybody saw how great the city is, and I hope we bring it back. And Joe is the GM for us for years and years to come.
Forever.
And on a side note, the Flyers, with a 2.2% chance of getting a top 2 pick, pulled it off in the draft lottery. So it was a good weekend for Philadelphia drafts.
I want to bring up our last pick, actually, Elijah Qualls, who I actually like.
Okay.
Joe Banner didn't actually. He's a great follow on Twitter. You think he'd be the bitter bird with how things played out, but he always gives his honest opinion. And he actually commented on that pick, and he goes, "I've never seen a prospect resembles Hollis Thomas as much as this guy has."
Yeah.
Short, huge guy, short arms, but he's just productive. He's just high, like extremely high motor. He just figures out ways to get the running back into the quarterback. But so I think he'll especially with Bo Allen's injury, he has a chance, make an impact on run stopping, on like running situations, rushing situations. So goal line, short yardage and stuff like that. Again, overall, I just think it was a great draft. I think I said numerous times, I think we knocked it out of the park. We made some good undrafted free agent signings as well. We got the top-rated center. Got one of the top-rated prospects. I'm drawing a blank on his name.
Orlovsky?
Yeah, Orlovsky, there you go. And then we got Corey Clement from Wisconsin. That's a guy that could potentially make an impact. He was a 3-down back, I don't think his ceiling's that high, but I mean, behind a good line, and if we get our passing game going with all these weapons, he'll have a chance to make it. He'll have a chance to make an impact, but we'll see how that goes. But one thing I did see is we're starting to establish an identity. We're getting a lot of guys, that are hardworking, film nuts, that are great locker room presences, that were leaders on their team. They're really building a culture in Philadelphia, and they're being serious about it. So, that's something to get excited about. We haven't had an identity other than when Chip was our identity, and we saw how that worked out. And then, again, the other thing is a lot of these guys are, 20 years old. They're very young, so it's a potential to be a cornerstone draft, kind of similar to how the Lito Shepherd, Sheldon Brown, Brian Westbrook, all them. This could be a draft where at least 3 or 4 of these guys stick around for a long time. And if you call a successful draft, you only need 1 or 2, but I think this is a potential of like 3 or 4 guys stick around for 5+ years.
Yeah, man. I mean, the Sidney Jones pick is just sexy all the way around.
Love it.
The fact they got him. And then Rasul Douglas, he might have been the best value pick out of the draft. And, I'll tell you what, keep an eye on Tyler Orlovsky out of West Virginia. Keep an eye on the center. The interior linemen, a lot of these guys are found later rounds, undrafted. You think of Kelsey, he was a 6th-round pick. You think of Jeff Saturday, he was undrafted. Tyler Orlovsky, I believe he's like 6'4", 300. So he kind of fits more of what Doug Peterson wants to do from his center, a guy that's going to, push dudes backwards. He wants to play more power football. Kelsey's not really that guy. So we'll see, next couple years kind of how they transition and how they really start playing offensively for Doug Peterson's scheme. Because last year he fit his scheme around the personnel. We played outside zone. They still had Kelsey pulling out on the perimeter. But I think over the next couple years, we'll see more of a transition to that power scheme. And next year's the year to look at running back and getting that power 3-down back for that scheme. So this draft, they killed it. They didn't fill all the holes, but you weren't going to fill all the holes. I mean, there's a lot of patchwork that they had to do, man. There were holes all over the walls, all over the place. And we're just going to patch that all up in one draft. Hell, it might even take 3 drafts.
And don't forget who our general manager is. We're probably not done acquiring players. We got a couple of players that they've been talking about trade bait. You just mentioned Kelsey. Michael
Kendrick is another one.
Possibly
Kendricks, Jordan Matthews.
I wouldn't put it past Jordan Matthews. Now since we didn't go wide receiver in the first 3, I'd be a little surprised at now. But I mean, if they don't have a plan to resign him, it wouldn't completely shock me to see if they feel like they're getting good value for him. But I wouldn't trade him just to trade him. But I would, you can never sleep on Howie Roseman. You never know what's going to happen. So while we're like, we need this position. We missed out on the draft. We'll see. You never know what Howie has up his sleeve. So I guess we'll see. I think Kelsey's days I think he's going to be gone.
Might be. Jeremy, you got one last thing to say about that?
We still got a lot of months 4 months till September. So, yeah, a lot can happen. We've seen, hell, a week before the season started last year, Sam Bradford was going to be our quarterback. So,
we'll trade Carson Wentz,
see what happens, man. A lot can happen. It's interesting you bring up Jordan Matthews. It's, Alshon Jeffrey and Jordan Matthews are going to be up, and we would all agree we want to keep Alshon over Jordan Matthews. So, both their contracts are up. Can't really keep them both. So, especially with he got more depth, and hopefully one of those two pan out from this draft, and that receiver Gibson or Holly. So we'll see. I agree. There's going to be, I think, more to come, more moves to be made. Teams might lose someone to injury, like what happened with Bridgewater. I mean, anything can happen.
See, the issue with re-signing Matthews also is because his stats were inflated the past few years. Like
I was about to make that point.
He's a great guy, but he was in a high volume chips offense. And then last year, he was the only receiver that could even get open. He saw his fair share of drops. So I mean, his production was a lot like as a result of volume more than anything. I mean, he's still very good, but the problem is when he starts putting up those close to 1,000 yards of receiver, which he's not really going to be that guy consistently. The market's going to demand big money for him, and he's a slot guy. He can't play the outside. He can only play one position. So, I mean,
Jordan Matthews looks like gold. He looks like gold because he's around so much shit, and but he still stinks. Whenever you need a big play, he's going to drop the ball. That's what Jordan Matthews does. That is the epitome of Jordan Matthews. He works hard. He does all that shit. Yeah. But yeah. So the inflated thing, I wrote a post about this. I don't remember when, but like, yeah, like the year he had like 997 yards or whatever it was. That was the equivalent of like 790, I think, if it was like an average number of plays for a team throughout the season. Eagles ran the second most plays in the league that year. Chip Kelly's high volume offense, you run more plays, you're going to get more yards. And he still couldn't get 1,000 yards. And considering the shit he was playing with, he should have went for 1,200 if he was any good. So that's my argument. All right, we're going to end this now because now we're getting long and we can keep going if we really want to. So, and I know Jeremy's hungry. He's really hungry. He wants to eat. He wants to feast. So for Mike Skolsky, Jeremy Burton, I'm Adrian Fetchu. This was our draft recap. Tune in tomorrow night. The boys from 4th and John, E-Rock. We're going to have a draft recap with those guys. So can't wait for that. And I can't wait for Gail's take on some of these prospects. I know he does really good with his scouting ability. So tune in for that tomorrow night. That'll be 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Mike Skolsky, Jeremy Burton again. I'm Adrian Fetchu. We're out. Peace.